Cinematographic framing. The subject effect is produced when the gap between the action and reaction of the movement images is sufficient to generate perception, that is, an illumination, un éclairage.
An illumination. Un éclairage.
Exerting the subjective effect on the other images. The subject image is produced in this gap, such that the subjectivity of images actually occurs in the interval. At the moment when the relaxation takes place, the distances and separates action and reaction one from the other. Where actions and reactions are instantaneously linked together, we are on the plane immanence of complete matter, where everything reacts on everything else and where individuated image is not to be found. By contrast, the interval opens up where action does not dissipate in reaction, but is rather propagated and unfolds in the movement image, according to three varieties of perception image, affection image and action image. Deleuze thereby draws our attention to the convergence between Leibniz and Bergson in saying that subjectivity traces out a finite perspective, but he goes further by demonstrating that it amounts to the same thing to say that perception is subtractive, subjective and extracts a specific point of view from reality. Subjectivity proceeds through framing. From this, Deleuze derives a strange and new theory. Perceptive images are cinematographic and they propagate a sensory zone of sensory-motor subjectivity within the interval of forces. In this way, a second image forms that is excluded from other images, and which becomes individuated by presenting a sensory surface to them and by opposing its singular motor power, subpuissance motrice singulière, to them. This power is endowed, in addition, with the power of affection that allows it to experience its nascent interiority. In this way, subjectivity reveals its cinematographic status, for it is distinguished from other images by its perceptual framing and active editing that favors the cutting and relinking of other images. How can we assimilate a cinematographic image to the formation of a subject? By starting from a centered matter, Deleuze neutralizes the distinction between the organic and the machinic, the living and the technical. The temporal interval between action and reaction favors the emergence of subjective images, whether they be human, living or cinematographic, without granting any privilege to the anthropomorphic or the natural. One of the most powerful aspects of this theory of individuation is that it allows us to treat technical images and biological images, the cinema and the living, on the same plane, not by humanizing cinematographic images, but simply because in this universe of forces, the human origin of such images is of small importance in terms of their material composition. Here, Deleuze follows Spinoza. The difference between artificial and natural images is perfectly secondary, and cinematographic images are defined exactly like other material images, that is, by cutting and editing. This is reinforced by the fact that cinematographic images allow us to experience moment and perceive a bit of time in a pure state, as Proust desired, better than our natural perception could, because they are not, like human perception, subject to human action and its impoverished attempts to stabilize becoming by submitting it to the specializing categories of our possible action. Cinema is thus better positioned than a psychological or phenomenological analysis of the human to allow us to respond to the question, what is a perception? But, since we should not reduce this question overly quickly to this anthropological mode, we should deal with it in this other form. How do images become individuated? Only the analysis of cinema could guarantee this mutation. This is the decisive importance of the concept of the image, and the reason why cinema is so important to Deleuze.